Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action. The leadership trap gifted professionals don't see. Hi, friends, it's Dianne, and we're talking today about gifted people in leadership roles and how we often get stuck in traps. Now, that has happened to me more times than I want to admit to since the very beginning of my career, and sometimes I still think it happens. And I see it happen with other gifted professionals in all different kinds of work and sizes of companies and things like that. And I think it's because we are very good at idea synthesis. We are good problem solvers. We can see things before other people can. So we're always in a solution-oriented stance and often before a lot of other people see it. And so that's a real asset, but yet it can become a trap. And I remember one time I was working at this company that was a medium-sized company, and I was one of the directors, and then I became a director over other directors, right? So I kept getting promoted, and that was great. And I was kind of young, and I was happy about that. But what I started noticing as time went on, and I could see things more clearly or more in advance, and I was more of a visionary, and I didn't really know those things about me as being gifted or different. I really thought everyone had them back then. So I couldn't understand why I would see things. I would talk to the team. They would say, yes, we got it. And then they would go do something else or do nothing, or they would do part of it and then stop. And then later say, well, we didn't know what you wanted us to do. Even though there seemed to be a meeting of the minds, even though there was me checking in and them saying yes, at the end of the day, it didn't quite jive sometimes. And it became very stressful for me as a gifted leader. And it became a trap. I see lots of my clients going through this in different ways at different times, where we can often get trapped into a scenario or a situation that isn't necessarily in our best interest or the best interest of the company. There's the client of mine who does the hero thing, right? And so he is very good at being like the knight on the white horse, and he's going to come be the hero, and he's going to solve everybody's problems all the time and take care of the whole team. Like, kind of like, I imagine him putting everybody on his back and carrying them, and he's never delegates very much. In fact, never is a strong word, but it's really close to never, right? Because he wants to make sure it's all done right. Now, I was guilty of that a long time ago. One time I was running a treatment center, and I didn't want to delegate some certain things. And one time I remember in a medical record, we had to write the client's number in the bottom of every page, way back before electronic records. And I knew not to delegate. And this is funny to me now, but then it was very serious. I knew not to delegate doing an intake and having to write those numbers into a certain counselor, because he would always use blue ink. And the Florida law and the way it was supposed to be run was black ink. And somebody would have to go rewrite over it in black ink, and then it would be messy, which wouldn't work for my neurodivergent brain. And it was always this push-pull within me, and sometimes out in the real world of, if you're not going to do it the way it's supposed to be done, then I'll just cover it myself. That's the hero pattern. So I've been guilty of that. I'm sure you've been guilty of that at different times, because sometimes we think it's easier for us just to do it ourselves than to delegate it. The problem that happens with this in a leadership role is that we get in this trap of doing everybody's work all the time, and then we burn out and we get exhausted. And even if we educate people or train them and they still make the mistakes, we have to make the judgment call or the employee-employer call on what to do with that. Whether we give them more training, change their jobs, separate the employment, something. But we can't just keep picking up the pieces because we can because it doesn't serve the greater good. It took me a while to learn that, but I've learned that. And every once in a while, I could fall into those patterns. And I think you probably can too. And I think it's because we have a natural propensity to get things done and try to be as efficient as we can and have things be accurate. Gifted people like things to be correct. That can often look like perfectionism. That can often look like those kinds of things. However, it ends up really being, we want it to be correct. I lived in Pinellas County in Florida, and that's the Gulf of Mexico off there. And when people would tell me they went to the ocean for the sunset, I would say, wow, you went all the way to the other coast. To point out that the Gulf of Mexico is a gulf, it's not an ocean. And we can get in those patterns that sometimes are funny, and sometimes it holds us back in our professional life. And these things kind of can get to us because we have very high standards. And I've had people say to me, you have high standards, and that's true. Every gifted person I know has high standards. And we also think very fast. Now, we may not speak it all very fast, but we can process at a different rate than some other people. And even among the gifted world, we all process differently in different rates. And sometimes it looks like we don't have compassion or care when really deeply inside we do. But it doesn't look like that because often we're trying to get things done and have everything be the way they're supposed to be. And so when I'm focused or when you're focused, we can look serious, but that doesn't mean the compassion's gone. It means that we're focusing on something that's serious. So a gifted professional can end up in that trap, right? Can end up in that trap of trying to please a lot of people, but yet carry it all, and it burns you out. And we don't want it to burn you out because the cost gets really, really big. First of all, you get exhausted. And then you become very dependent on other people that you really don't want to have it be lopsided. You don't want to have it be wobbly, right? You want to have things have some kind of flow and meaning. And then what happens is your innovation goes down. I know when I get really tired, my creativity isn't the way I would like it to be. It's in there, but it still isn't flowing in the way that's important to me. And then eventually we all burn out. And in some careers, like in mental health counseling and substance abuse counseling, the average career rate's around 2 years before the person burns out. I experienced that many years ago, and I learned how to take care of myself along the way, but I've had little mini burnouts from the trap. So we all experience it. The question is, what are we going to do to not get ourselves in the trap? Or when we catch the trap, what are we going to do to get ourselves out of the trap? Right? So one of the first things I want to teach you and remind you, if you already know this, is when something comes across for you to do, then you need to say, is it mine? I always ask, what's mine to do? And I know this is a funny little story, but this is how I remember this. In my neighborhood, when I was growing up, there was a gutter, and so we had to edge our front yards, right? And so we didn't edge past our own property line. The other neighbor went from their property line to their property line. And so if your yard was totally clean and that edging was beautiful and your neighbor didn't edge for a month or 2 or 3, especially in Florida, it would grow into the gutter. And you could really see the differentiation of not taking care of something and taking care of something. But is it our responsibility to edge the other person's yard? Now, because I'm altruistic and I give a lot, I probably would have edged and helped out a little bit. But the point is it mine to do? Where are the boundaries? Whose side of the street is it on? Whatever question you need to ask, it's important to realize to keep your energy and your focus on what is yours to do. And then we want to make sure that if there's anyone in our circle and our team or whatever who is capable of doing the task or taking care of the things, that they have the opportunity to do that. Because if we get ourselves caught in the trap, what happens is we end up going around in circles in a situation that doesn't work. And then we end up becoming the organizational bottleneck. And we don't want to prevent we want to prevent that from happening. We want to be able to say, okay, there is a flow. Now the flow might be fast and slow at different times, but it's not healthy for the leader to be the bottleneck. It's not healthy for the leader to be carrying the weight of the entire organization. So the organization might need to change its hiring patterns a little, or look at what really kind of support is really needed, especially if you're in a company or you own the company and it's growing fast or you're changing something. You might want to reevaluate who the players are and how and when and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's very, very important. And I think it's something that gifted people often have a challenge with, because it's really easy to keep getting promoted and keep moving forward and realize when we wake up one day that we're carrying much more of the load than we intended, or that is healthy for us. Because so many times we get ourselves exhausted. Most of the clients who call me to work with me either have a great idea and they're already exhausted just trying to figure out what to do with it, or they're already exhausted and they're trying to figure out how to create something new. There's all of these different dynamics. Because remember, you are meant to create and bring goodness to the world. You are meant to be a beneficial presence. You as a gifted leader are here. I'm getting goosebumps. You as a gifted leader are here to stand in your authority in that aligned manner to bring something amazing to the world. And you know it. You can feel it in your heart. So what are you doing about it? Are you letting that beautiful vision show up in the world in something amazing? Are you saying yes to what your calling is? Or are you shrinking or avoiding, or worse, running away from yourself? I've had many people who've worked for me in different organizations running away from themselves. And it really created a lot of problems in their own lives because they weren't willing to be in alignment with who they were and what was important to them. So many amazing people running from themselves. So I want to support you in not running from yourself. I want to support you in standing in your authority, in who you are as a gifted person who is a leader, whether it's in position or title or just the fact that you're sucking air, you're still a leader. So what are we doing with it, right? How are we allowing ourselves to be who we're meant to be, bring our vision to life, be that beneficial presence on planet Earth, and maintain our own sense of sanity, health, and well-being? How do we do that? How do we get out of that trap? The first thing we do is we pay attention to what is ours to do, and we support others around us. As always, you can always schedule a get to know you call with me, and I am happy to talk to you about this or help you. I have all different kinds of things that I think could support you. So feel free to reach out to me. I love to have conversations with people and learn the amazing things and share something of benefit for you. Until the next episode, if someone gets me, remember this: put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you are a rock star. You are here on purpose with a mighty, mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine. Bring your heart's desire to fruition and allow yourself to stand in that beautiful sovereignty of who you are. Because I see you. You're amazing. Until the next episode, if someone gets me, this is Dianne saying, be well. Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.